Welcome to a training video of the Export Accounting Entries screen in PayPak Professional 4.0. This screen is used to export accounting entries from PayPak Professional to general ledger accounting applications such as PayPak, Adagio, Great Plains, Microsoft Dynamics, Peachtree, QuickBooks, Sage 300, and others. So let's log in and show you how it works. The Export Accounting Entries screen is found under the Export section of the menu, the very first item on the menu. And this is the screen. Let's start with a look at the layout of the screen, and then I will show you how it works. At the top of the screen, there's the entry, which is the accounting entry. You can browse for these. Once an entry is selected, you have the batch and the date and the payroll set associated with that entry. Then there's a choice of formats. There's a list of them here. You have an option as to how the debits and credits should be exported. There's a file name and the folder where you want the file to be saved, and some options for source code, source ledger, and source type. Also at the top right, there are totals for debits and credits. The main part of the screen is a grid where the entries will be displayed. At the bottom of the screen, there are some buttons which control various functions for this screen. So let's begin by showing you how it works. Let's display some entries first of all. If I click on last, I will see the last set of accounting entries that were prepared in the system. It's entry number 256 for batch 190. The date is the 14th of May, and the payroll set was for vacation pay. I can click the navigational buttons, first, previous, next, and last, to view other entries. I can also use the browse to select whichever entry I wish to post to export. So let's click on last and look at the last one. And there are some options at the top of the screen which you would want to save, because those will be the settings that you would always be using for your particular general ledger application. So let's look at the list of formats, and you would choose the particular one which you have. And there are quite several of them in here. You have PayPak for Windows CSV. You have PayPak for Windows AP, which is an accounts payable that generates accounts payable entries, payments. You have Adagio 9.2a, single currency. At the end of each entry, you'll see a little indicator of the format. So CSV is comma separated values. The QuickBooks ones, they have IIF. Sage 300 is CSV. Microsoft Dynamics is CSV. And PayPak for Windows, that's now actually being renamed as Sage. Same product. These two formats are exactly the same. The PayPak for Windows CSV and the Sage 300. But in more recent times, people are more familiar with the product under the newer name of Sage 300. So that's just to differentiate between the older name and the newer name, but at this point in time, they're both exactly the same format. We have, continuing in the list, we have ECI Advantage. We have a Grey Notes General Ledger series, because we have a few customers for whom we have developed a general ledger package, a customized GL package, or in some cases it's general ledger and other things. Each of them different. They're each customized in their own way, but they perform the basic general ledger functions. It's not something which we had wanted to do because there are several other options out there, as you can see from this list, of, to borrow a term, ready-made GL packages. But we were persuaded by our customers that they liked our software so much that they insisted that we create a GL package for them. Although we still hold the view that you can go with one of the more popular, well-known packages out there. There's Great Plains, Microsoft Dynamics, Peachtree, Phoenix System International, four options for QuickBooks, and I believe it will import QuickBooks 2021. It's not listed, but if you use, I think, the 2017 format, that would work as well for the 2021. There's the Sage 300, which we mentioned before, and there's something called Sun, which is a TXT format. So we are going to create a format. Let's go with the QuickBooks one here. That's fairly popular. When you choose the QuickBooks, it automatically sets the file name, see, which is Journal 256. That 256 represents the 256 of the entry number here. Now I'll just go through the list. I'll just go back to the top, and we can look at some of the names that come up. Take a look at the file name section here. As I scroll through the format list, you'll see some differences in the name format. So the app pack for Windows is GL Batch CSV. The app pack for Windows AP is AP Batch CSV. This is the Adagio one. This is for ECI Advantage. This is the Grey Notes one. It has a much longer name, and the name format is basically the name of the product where it's coming from, PayPak Professional. This number represents the year, and the 14 would be the date, 2021 0014. I'm not sure what is 00. It has the actual date. Then you have vacation pay and the batch with the number at the end. It's again the same 256, which is the accounting entry number, not actually the batch number, which is 190 in that particular case. The next option, Great Plains, Microsoft Dynamics, Peachtree, Phoenix, QuickBooks. These are all the QuickBooks. They use the same format for the file name. The Sage 300 and the Sun, and one called Unibanks, which was off the scroll list just now. I didn't see that. Yes, there's a Unibanks one here in the list. So we are going to go with QuickBooks, and the next option is whether you want to, for the debits and credits, whether you want to combine into one line per account or whether you want to separate 2 lines per account. Now let me explain the difference here. You can see it right here in this display. When I choose combine 1 line per account, if there are totals of debits going to an account and there are also credits going to the account, 1 line per account will net those off. It will summarize all the debits, summarize all the credits, and whichever one is it calculates the difference and puts that in as one total, which you see here to the bank. You have a total of $12,698. If I choose separate, which is 2 lines per account, that entry now becomes credits of 18,920.02 to the bank and a debit of 6,222.02. So depending on your preferences, you would select the debits or credits option, and again, just as with the format, you would hit the settings button. You click on the settings button once you've made your choices, so that when you next come into this screen, those options are saved. Now, there's some other options. We're not finished yet. You have the folder, and I'm going to change this back to just one line per account. We have the folder. Right now, this is set to a folder there. I'm going to change that, and I want it to go to a particular folder, which is, I have a demo files folder for accounting entries, which I created earlier, and I'm going to save it to that folder. So this will be the folder where your accounting package will look to pick up the import file. The way the importing works, the software takes these accounting entries and it saves them to a file. Then you open your accounting package and import that file using whatever options it has. And those options, that's beyond the scope of this demo. We just deal with the PayPak portion of exporting the entries. The import, you would get that from the whatever help or assistance you have for your accounting application. Source code, source ledger, and source type, those are for some of the other options. I think they're used for AppPack and for Adagio and Sage. They're not used in this particular case with QuickBooks. So we have everything that we need, and I would now click the settings button to save those entries, and to export them I would just click export, and up comes the folder, and there's the name of the file. If I wanted to change the folder or change the file name, I could do so. We don't recommend that you change the file name. It's optional whether you change the folder, but if changing the file name, there are some accounting applications which require the file to be named with a certain extension or named in a particular manner. So we click on save, and that's it. It's successfully exported, and that's it. Now I'm going to export some of the other formats to show you some examples. Let's do the AppPack for Windows one. It requires a source ledger and a source type. If I try to export it without doing that, it will tell me no blanks allowed. The source ledger, I'll put GL, and the source type, I'll just put JE. You can't just make these up. These have to be actual source ledgers and source types in your AppPack application, in your AppPack general ledger. So I've provided those now. I'm going to export. The screen comes up. I don't see the QuickBooks one because this is now only looking for CSV files. It's there, but it's filtered out. This filter is only for CSV files, and I save that, and it says export file successfully created, and that's the folder. It confirms the folder it was sent to, and I can save that there. And now that can be imported into AppPack for Windows. There is AppPack for Windows AP, and let's export that one, and that's a similar thing. This is an AP batch instead of GL batch, because that would be imported through the accounts payable module. Again, that is successfully exported. We have the Adagio. This requires a source code. I will use I think I'll use GL for this. I'm not that familiar with Adagio, but there is a source code which is required as opposed to the source ledger and source type in PayPak. So we export, and again it says GL and it has the codes in there, and we save it. Next one, I won't go through all of them. The Gray Notes series here, I will export that as well. That asks for a source ledger code, and that source ledger code will be in the GL for whatever package you're using. It uses ledgers. This has a much longer name, as you can see. So we save that, and it again is a confirmation that it was exported. Next, there's a Great Plains one that does not use any of these options here. They're disabled. And we export that. Now it says GL batch, which is the same name used for one of the earlier options. In this case, I'll overwrite the one that was there. And that has gone through. So Microsoft Dynamics. Again, it has GL batch as the default name. Export, similar thing. I could have renamed the file name in this case. I'm not familiar with this, if that file name is mandatory in Microsoft Dynamics or the Great Plains before that. There's the Peachtree one where it says general.csv. We export that and it goes through. Again, confirmed. As you can see, it's a very straightforward process. You would only, of course, be exporting the format for whichever GL package you are using. There's a QuickBooks IIF, and we export that. And this would overwrite the one that we did earlier, because this is their 4 QuickBooks formats. The other QuickBooks is 2006. Again, we export, same procedure. There's a 2006 link 4. And this is different because this option for the QuickBooks with the link 4, wherever you see the link 4, it means that it's using the account name as opposed to the account number. So when you're using the account name, let me just go to the records and the account screen and show you what I'm referring to. If you're exporting to QuickBooks using the account name, we have this export link 4 here to provide for that, because the names in QuickBooks can be quite long and they would exceed the name, the description name that we have here, which is just 50 characters. So those names could be quite long because they also include the parent account to whichever account you are. And if it's a sub account, it will have a parent account. If it's a sub account of a sub account, it will have the parent and the grandparent record above it, so to speak. And they're formatted in particular ways. So let's say it was salaries was the main account, and you put, I think they're separated by a colon or something like that. It's a format similar to this. So you would have, say the main account was salaries and wages, salaries and wages, and then there was one for salaries under that, and then there was one for kitchen salaries. Okay, that's what that would look like. Although this is the bank account, so this is not a salaries account. So just let me cut this from here and make it something more realistic. I think we have a wages cooks in here. Right, there we go. So let's do it like that. We save it and update it. When you are in the export screen, if I were to call this up again, you will now see that export link 4 here. And there are rules for this which you have to be very careful about. That export link for the account, because what you would do in cases like this will be used for QuickBooks which does not carry, QuickBooks where you do not have an account number set up. The account number is optional in versions of QuickBooks, so you don't have to have an account number, but you must have an account name, and when you have the account name, that's what the name is. So if that's the case, you would create an account code in PayPak that you use internally for PayPak purposes, an account code and description, but you use the export using the export link 4 because, as I said, this description may be much longer than the 50 characters allowed here. What you have to look out for is that the spelling of this account is exactly as the account description appears in QuickBooks. If you change it in QuickBooks, it must be changed here as well. If you do not change it, or if you make a mistake, you type a capital S there, or you have this as a lowercase s instead of uppercase s. If that happens and you export the entries to QuickBooks, QuickBooks will add a second account with the different spelling, and that can be a bit of an annoyance because you may not want duplicated accounts in your general ledger. So you have to be very careful with QuickBooks if you are exporting using the account name. What we advise customers sometimes is export using the account number and use a format with the account number. But to do that, you have to either be already using account numbers in QuickBooks, or you can change your QuickBooks configuration to generate account numbers and assign account numbers to avoid problems with the spelling of the account. Okay, so we're back here and we are ready to export this one to the QuickBooks 2006 link 4. So we export, and again it's Journal 256, the same name as the previous ones, and we save it, and that creates the IIF file which will be imported into QuickBooks. Other formats, we have the Sage 3000, export, and again this is the GL batch one, which will overwrite the one that's there. You've got the Sun TXT, and that's a TXT as was the PayPak one, but it has a different name. It's just called Sun Export in this case. We export that, successfully exported. And finally there's Unibank's export. The file name is glbatch.txt, and that is exported. So that's a run through. We've exported one of each of the formats that we have here. It's a very straightforward process once you know where to find it and how it works and how to set your options, the format, the debits and credits option, where you want the file to be saved, and of course where applicable your source code, source ledger, and source type. There is a settings button which will save the settings. There is a reset button which will reset or clear the settings. And of course there is the video button, which if you're in the software and you need a little more guidance to remember what was said during this training video, you click on it, it opens your browser and it launches this very training video in YouTube where you can watch it. And of course the exit button, which brings this training demo to a close. So that's it for this training video on the export accounting entries screen in PayPak Professional 4.0. Thank you very much. It's been a pleasure as usual, and we do look forward to the next training video to be released. Take care and goodbye.